And then once distributed, that's taxed further. So all that work invested becomes less and less money for the worker. And that's where Save Our Tips has come in to express that concern, because it's hard for us to grapple with the issue. It's hitting a lot of people like a sledgehammer because it's recent information. We've tried to coalesce an education campaign amongst our peers. Okay, we're not forcibly telling them to vote against the initiative. We're just saying, these are the stakes, this is the information, this is what's being said, tell us what you think and how you feel. And most of them have been very responsive. While I've been going around to all the various facilities in the city, I've had an opportunity to meet to all swarms of tip workers and employees, and operators and managers, and it seems to be a very unifying subject for us, so that's a really good thing. So expect to see more pins. There'll be happy hours, I'm sure, thrown up leading up before the vote. But the more DC residents realize what's happening, I think they'll come to our side once they get a little bit more education as to how our business functions. So that's why I'm very grateful for the platform that I've been given tonight, and I hope that the community seeks a little bit of action on this matter.
And there is a website?
Yes, there's a website, saveourtips.com. Anyone can sign the petition, okay? Petition saying Save Our Tips, anyone. You don't have to be a service industry member, you don't even have to be from DC, okay? If any of you happen to work in the service industry, there's also a portal that allows you to share your story. Again, with this, there are so many different layers to understanding the actual issue. But what's most important to reflect on is how it affects the workers. People will be hit at ground zero the moment this law passes. We want you to remember that. You know, every time you go to a bar, go to a nice restaurant, and have a good experience, because we will be the first affected. Okay, I'm sure owners will have a way to grapple with it, but they'll have a longer life of doing that. You know.
Do you know how it's identified on the ballot?
Yes. So this is what caught me off guard. I'm glad you asked that question. So it reads with good intention. It says, would you care for a minimum wage increase of up to $15? And then they explain how it goes up. And then there's an amendment directly afterwards saying that the earned wage credit would be removed as a result of you saying yes to this measure. So it reads well. Who doesn't want the minimum wage to increase, right? But they don't factor in that this does not have to be on the ballot either. And remember, the minimum wage is federally mandated. So again, the number might be 12 in Missouri or 13 wherever else. It's 15 here. Okay, and there's an incremental increase of $1 up until 2020. So it starts at, I think, at 13, 25 or something.
20, 12 something.
Yeah, something like that. And then every year incrementally it increases by $1. So just think about the proposition in itself and how that kind of destabilizes a portion of our workforce in the city.
I think you made another good point that a lot of people that it impacts don't live in the city.
That's right.
So your support would definitely be.
I've gone into rooms full like this, and I've asked my peers how many of you can vote, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's sad to say exactly what that number is, but what we do have is a platform. We're utilizing it. People in my industry are naturally gifted with people. It's one of the things that I admire the most out of the best of us. They have bars, we have floors, so what we're doing is we're wearing pins. We're not subjecting anyone to do this. You voluntarily wear a pin. Our pin just says, Save Our Tips, ask me why, right? So I volunteer that. I don't force it upon my guests. They ask me, so what's 77 about? And once they hear it, they go aghast. They cannot believe it. So, you know, there is the organization, I guess just to make this fully rounded, the organization that's introduced this legislation goes by the name of the Restaurant Opportunity Center. They're based out of New York. They're an agency, they're not a union. I'm not educated enough as to how they accrue their funds, but what they do is they essentially, they look for sensitive spots within the restaurant industry around the country. And then the moment they find reason to, they'll seek litigation, okay? So the litigation, what does that do? This is my perspective. This is not anyone else's opinion or what someone's told me to say. This is how I feel about it. They force litigation around the country, and what does that accomplish? They get notoriety. And when you get notoriety, you get fundraising, okay? So they say that they're very concerned about the direct effect on minorities. Okay. Yet and still, if you look at their volume of lawsuits, they file like an emoluments clause against the president because he owns restaurants, so that means foreign dignitaries won't go to other restaurants, they'll go to Trump's restaurant. What? If you really cared about minorities, why would you chase that? What I do know is if you were to look for rock lawsuits and litigation, that's the first thing that pops up. What does that tell you? So, and this is DC, we are familiar with this business plan. That's what they do. You get notoriety, you seek a sensitive topic, you get fundraising to bolster your cause, and whether you win or lose, you still got the money. That's the way it works. And so when we're caused with this affront, the language they use, the reason why I felt compelled to become more of a spokesperson was because they said things that just weren't true. Or if they're true, they're just universal issues that we should address everywhere. Okay? When they say that a woman has to just subject herself to more to earn a better tip, I have colleagues that wipe the floor with me that are female that get tips that are way higher than me because of their level of experience and knowledge and dictation of the menu or the bar or whatever it is. They're just better. They'll just get better tips. I accept that. It's a healthy competition. I get to learn from them. On the scale of minorities, I will admit this, the truth. 10 years ago, I did feel intimidated to apply at certain restaurants. I said, they probably won't hire me. Okay? Now what's happened is in the 10 years that's passed subsequently, my experience has risen and grown, and so has the industry. Therefore, the opportunities, people are tripping over my services. That's what's happening. You know, I know people that will talk you to death about wine or specialty whiskeys or gin. All day, that's what they do. You go back home after work and you'll go on YouTube. That's what I do with wine. You know, so it's like it never stops. We hang out with each other. We're kind of like a loose family, so we're always sharing information. It's just, that's the way we operate. So these falsehoods, I think, are very damaging to the people who effectively take it as a primary profession, or at least respect what they do. And I think it's damaging to a lot of us aspiring small business owners out there. I have a friend who owns Red Light. He's through a restaurant group. It's on 14th Street. He said if this measure had passed, say, just 2 years ago, he couldn't have opened his business. No, one less small business owner. You know, and those are the types of effects that would directly come to pass after people would supposedly vote yes on this issue.
And so the website that you mentioned, that has the information you're sharing in additional. So what we'll do is we'll put this on our website. So come check it out, become knowledgeable, tell your friends, and like you said, you know, make your own decision, but you know, be informed. You know, thank you so much for coming.
I thank you all very much.
Really appreciate it.
You guys have a wonderful night.
All right, you too. Thank you so much. So the next from 16 to 13, or from 6 to 13, they're license ABRA license renewals. I believe most, if not all, have come before the alcohol committee, which is chaired by Commissioner Padro. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn over to Mr. Padro to call up each entity. Inform us of the committee's recommendation and accept comments. So take it away, Commissioner Padro.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We'll begin with Logan Circle Liquors.
Yes, sir.
Logan Circle Liquors is located at 1018 Rhode Island Avenue Northwest. If you
Yes, sir.
come forward and identify yourself for the record.
Yes. I'm in Logan Circle, 1080 Rhode Island Avenue. I've been over there 5 years. I'm looking opportunity to open Sunday business. I have no problem, agreement, anything, you know. I am very comfortable with this habit.
So just for the record, if you could spell your name for our record.
My name is Amrik Singh, A-M-R-I-K. Last name Singh, S-I-N-G-H.
So we did reach out to ABRA and we asked for the investigative records for each of the establishments that we're discussing this evening, and there were no infractions or violations by Logan Circle Liquors. So that was not an issue in contention. And the ABC Licensing Committee did hear the request for Sunday hours. I also did talk to about 10 of the residents on the block, and they had indicated they had no objections, and actually they thought it would actually be a convenience to be able to shop at your establishment if you were to be open on Sundays. So there's actually two matters on this particular application. One is the renewal, for which the committee did offer their support, the renewal of the Class A license, and also the matter of support for an extension of their hours to include Sundays. So this is in my single-member district, so I'll go ahead and make a motion that ANC 6E support the renewal application for Logan Circle Liquors at 1018 Rhode Island Avenue Northwest, and that in addition, we support an application for Sunday hours at the same establishment.
And what will the Sunday hours be?
Those will be 10 to 10, 10 a.m. To 10 p.m. is what has been requested.
Yes, sir.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We have one abstention, and 5 in favor.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Next on the agenda is ABC Grocery, 1401 6th Street Northwest. Is there a representative from ABC Grocery? All right, there is no representative from ABC Grocery. But we do have an investigative history on ABC Grocery. Since their last renewal, there have been 2 instances of no ABC manager or owner on the premises. There were fines, $250 fines were paid, and there was also a case of a sale to minor, which was resolved with a $4,350 fine, and there was no requirement for closing on any days. This is in Commissioner Brown's single-member district. I will note that the ABC Licensing Committee did recommend the support for the renewal, but if you would have any comments or would want to make a motion, Commissioner Brown.
We basically looked at their record and found that they really dealt with all their issues, so we feel comfortable in supporting the request for renewal. So I'd like to make a motion that we support the ABC Grocery, at 1401 6th Street Northwest, that we support their request for renewal for ABC license.
All right,
And I second the motion.
second?
Okay.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Um,
One abstention.
Make it 2 abstentions.
Thank you very much.
Who,
Oops.
it's Frank?
I'm gonna, Commissioner Wiggins and myself will
Oh,
abstain.
okay.
Next is Sane Wine and Spirits, 1201 5th Street Northwest. Is there any representative present?
Hello,
Welcome, please identify yourself for the record.
I'm Mara Walker, A-M-A-R-E, A-W-O-K-E. And me and my wife over there, Salam wife, we're the new member for the neighborhood on the 5th Street. This is our, I would say 6 months since we moved in. It's renewal season. I hope everybody likes us. We try to improve the areas and, change it up a little bit. We have a lot of work to do in that place. We're changing it.
How are you?
Yeah, good. So, that's what it is.
So there was no investigative history, there have been no violations related to this particular licensee, so the ABC Licensing Committee recommended to the full commission, the commission's support of the renewal, and this is in Commissioner Jaffe's single-member district.
I have a question.
Yes.
So you were saying keeping everything up in there, could you, the car is constantly parked on the sidewalk. Don't put your car on the sidewalk.
Absolutely.
I mean, no, but it is on the sidewalk.
Yeah, sometimes I myself parks on the sidewalk.
But why
When I
would
have
you do
to
that?
unload stuff,
But it's longer
there's
than.
no
a-
parking over there, but I hear you.
Yeah.
We'll definitely do that. We had people parked over there. We actually called the police a couple of times, and we tried to resolve that.
Okay.
But my car only there when I unload stuff.
Yeah, I
Because
guess
there's
it's,
no,
when there was a car there, it's quite long, so.
yeah, for those, yeah. I was there last weekend, actually. There was a car, and I called a tow truck to get it removed.
And when they tag you, can you get the graffiti removed right away?
One question, not relation to your ABC license is we have many issues. There's, the garbage can on the other side of Fifth Street. Your new neighbor at Fifth and N has been kind enough to install cameras. If you have cameras, do you have cameras yet in the exterior? Okay, can we talk about looking for getting proof of the gentleman who, your neighbor who always uses the trash can to overstuff it?
Sure, yeah, come by the time. And we'll-
That would be
we'll
lovely.
happy to-
But we have had otherwise no issues with your ABC license. There was an issue a few months ago with the ATM machine, but that was removed.
Yes. And,
So I would make a motion that ANC 6E supports the renewal of the ABC license for Saint Wine Spirits.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
One abstention.
Frank?
Commissioner Wiggins, yes. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is 1618 Variety Market. Get a representative, and if you can identify
Yeah,
yourself
my
for the
name is
record.
Rani Venkatesh. I'm the owner of
I'm
Saskin
sorry, I,
Spell your name, please.
MEDHANI. Last name WELDEGE.
D is
Yeah, D like that. ELDEG.
L,
D.
D, E, G. G.
All right, the liquor store is located at 1618 8th Street Northwest, corner of Rhode Island Avenue. Since the last renewal, there have been 3 citations, one of which was dismissed, 2 of which were dismissed with a warning related to the lack of legible lettering and posting and carrying of licenses, and then most recently a violation of the settlement agreement, control of litter, which was resolved with a $250 fine. So is there anything that you'd like to say about your business?
We haven't talked about that yet.
Okay,
Okay.
I am aware of a couple of violations of the settlement agreement. There are actually 2 separate settlement agreements with this particular establishment, but in the current, the most recent settlement agreement from 2016, there was a requirement that the building exterior be painted within 6 months of the signing of the agreement, and that obviously has not happened yet. There's also the matter of signage that is required to come under compliance with historic preservation guidelines, and the sign was changed, but does not meet historic preservation guidelines. And I understand that you are now maintaining your trash in the basement of the building in lieu of building a trash room on the first floor, which was what was originally proposed, but at least the trash is not being stored in an exterior dumpster, which was the cause of the requirement in the settlement agreement previously. And then from a previous settlement agreement, there was a matter of some streetscape improvements, plantings.
Do they
tree
own the
boxes
building?
we can do. So the owner of the building is Ms. White, who was with Mr. Wilder-Gorgas this evening. So anything that you want to respond to related to those items?
Yeah.
If you don't have any comments.
Yeah.
The ABC Licensing Committee, does recommend that the commission protest the license renewal so that we have time to work with the applicant to try to resolve these outstanding issues before it has to go to a protest hearing. And this is in my single-member district, so I'm going to move that ANC 6E protest the renewal of 1618 liquor and grocery, coal, beer, and wine license, and that we report that protest to the ABC board in Avron.
Second.
So can I just
Oh.
clarify? So we're going to protest it and then
Once it's been acknowledged, we will withdraw our protest. Or once
We will work with the applicant to
Address the
hopefully
settlement
address
agreement.
those issues, get everything up to date, and then withdraw.
Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
I'd like to make a second motion, that in the letter we recognize Commissioner Padro as the commission's representative in this matter before ABRA.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh,
So we'll be in regular touch with you to hopefully resolve these issues so that we can eventually have you continue to be a positive influence on the neighborhood.
Okay.
Thank you. Next is 10th Street Market at 1000 S Street Northwest. Is there a representative from 10th Street Market? You know, I did speak with them earlier. They're a little shorthanded. In terms of investigative history, since the last renewal, they have had a couple of instances of no ABC manager on the premises, which have been resolved with fines. There were 2 sales to minors, one in 2016 and one in 2017. One was resolved with a staff settlement, the other was resolved with a $2,000 fine and a 5-day suspension. I did check with the Civic Association in the neighborhood. They're very grateful for the fact that this establishment serves as a delivery point for packages, so that they don't have to risk having such deliveries stolen from their front stoops. And the Civic Association recommended support for the licensee's renewal, and so did the ABC Licensing Committee at our meeting last week.
Were there any questions or concerns about how they maintain the outside of the building?
There were no issues that were raised about that particular situation. In past renewal cycles, there were some issues related to trash, but that's no longer the case. So this is in my single-member district, and I'll make a motion that the commission support the license renewal for 10th Street Market, and that we report that support to ABRA and the ABC Board.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Understand you.
You can, I'm gonna abstain as well.
Okay.
Next is Grand Kata at 1550 7th Street Northwest. And I see that we do have representatives here. So I'm glad to be able to say that there's no investigative history from ABRA, so no negative reports. Thanks for being responsible owners. Would you please introduce yourselves for the record?
Julio Robledo, Julio Robledo.
And your name?
Pedro Rodriguez.
Okay, got that.
So, gentlemen, would you like to make any comments you'd like to about your business?
Well, been 2 years open, love it, love that we require the neighborhood, and I think we're going to continue to make positive impact and bring more of the Latino flavor into the show neighborhood, so super happy.
Okay. So again, the ABC Licensing Committee recommended the renewal of this particular Class A license. And it's in my single-member district, so I move that AC6E support the Class A license renewal for Grand Kata, and that we report that support to the ABC Board and ABRA.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Just one abstention.
Okay.
Just one this time.
Just being consistent. Thank you very much, gentlemen. And the final, oh, no, we have 2
Oh,
more.
we got 2
So,
more.
I Street Sellers at 425 I Street Northwest. Any representative here? Hearing none, the ABC Licensing Committee was pleased to see that there had been no infractions and no investigative history for this establishment, and the committee recommended approval of support for the renewal of their liquor license. This establishment is located in Commissioner Marriott Single-Member District.
Yeah, I similarly haven't spoken with anybody there. However, I do know they have a very good reputation. Community loves them. I see no reason why we shouldn't support their renewal. So with that, I'd like to make the motion that AN6E support I Street Sellers' renewal of their license and communicate that to ABRA.
Second.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
One abstention.
And then the last license renewal for today is Angel Share Wine and Liquors. Do we have a representative this evening? I did speak with the owners, and I'm glad to be able to report there is no investigative history. They purchased the former Log Cabin Liquors at 1748 7th Street Northwest and completely gutted and renovated the building, expanded it, and I've only heard positive things from the neighbors in terms of a much better appearance, as well as lack of some negative elements that had been associated with the previous establishment. The ABC Licensing Committee did vote to recommend support for the renewal of the liquor license by the full commission, and this is in my single vote district, so I make a motion that ANC 6E support the renewal of Angel Share Wine and Liquors license, and that we report that support to the ABC board and APRA.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. And that concludes our ABC licensing agenda.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Commissioner Padro and the rest of the Alcohol Committee. Well, great investigation, good information, appreciate it very much. I think this moves to the next exciting, as I said earlier, 14 is not going to, we're not going to be doing 14, they're going to come back another time. So we are moving to the alleyway block of N Street.
Not 655.
Oh, you know what, excuse me, I'm sorry, gosh. Do we have a representative from 655 K Street for the public space for patio seating? I think that's next. No, I think it's fine.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Chris Briscoe, and I'm here with Mr. Fernando Pasigo from Soul Mexicano Restaurant. And
Is this one where the pizza place used to be,
Yeah.
next to Shoot?
so we're here to present the outdoor patio seating for Soul Mexicano, Mexican restaurant, or sorry, Mexican grill. We have a total of 14 seats, 7 tables, and 3 umbrellas. We'll accommodate 1 handicap seating, and there is a removable stanchion to block off the patio from the walking pedestrians. We're just here tonight to get approval of this patio.
Is this related to the El Sol on 11th Street, or totally different?
No, it's totally different.
Okay, just curious.
Well, knowing that you appeared before the zoning committee, we hear what the zoning committee has to say.
Yes, they presented their plan on Thursday, and basically it originally had additional seating that sort of, we felt was a little bit much for the capacity of the sidewalk. So they've taken into consideration and removed the 2 standalone tables that were further out into the walkway and reduced their space, which we basically felt was the best thing to do. And we supported their request, and we would like to support it to the full end of the city.
Excellent, excellent. Well, this is in my single member district. I couldn't be more excited for you guys to come in. I let some of the community know, and they are equally as excited. Would any commissioners have any further questions?
So there was a question that the representative that came to the Zoning, Planning, and Transportation Committee last Thursday wasn't able to answer is, are you planning to apply for a liquor license for this establishment?
Once we open, we're planning to sell only beer. The main thing for us is the food, so, yeah.
So the only reason that we were asking that was because we wanted to make sure that there were no issues in terms of, separation of the service area outdoors related to ABRA regulations, but I think taking that into consideration, you still do have a removable barrier that can serve that purpose, and obviously if there are any concerns from ABRA's viewpoint, they will be sharing them with you, and we presume that we will see you when you do apply for your ABRA license.
Sure.
So,
Yeah, and before you do that, let me know. We'll talk about it, see, make sure it's a smooth process.
Yeah, it's a possibility. We're not 100% that we're going to apply for the liquor license.
Sure, sure. Well, when we do, we'll, make it transparent and make sure everybody's happy.
Perfect.
Any questions from the audience? All right, well, with that, I'd like to make a motion that ANC 6E support your application for a public space permit, and we communicate that to the Public Space Committee with the Department of Transportation.
So friendly amendment specifically for 14 seats, because their original application was 18 seats.
All right, thank you.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thanks, guys. Welcome to the neighborhood.
Thank you.
Yes.
When will you be opening, or when do you hope to?
By the end of June.
Great, good luck.
Yes.
All right, moving on, we have the request for support for officially naming the alleyway of the 400 block of M Street, which is in Commissioner Jaffe's district.
So as many of you know, this has been a topic of conversation for some time. The ANC has engaged the community as well as stakeholders on the alley. The request first came to us by residents who live on the alley for practical reasons, with regards to not feeling like there's a place where their address is associated with, given that it's difficult for carriage houses and the residents then from the rear to receive mail, ride sharing, police, fire, and EMS, safety issues, not understanding like when they say rear to 911 what that actually means. So we worked with Councilmember Allen as well as the community to basically what our goal was that we wanted to A, provide them a name, but B, keep it in the history of the alley. And we engaged an outside firm called the HT Traceries that used to actually be located on this alley, and they helped us find some research, do some research that found, a couple suggestions, and with outreach to the community, as well as some of the stakeholders, such as the First Tabernacle, who's in attendance here, to come up with a name that both respects the history of the alley and provides some meaning to it, both for residents as well as the institutions that have been a part of the community for all these years. The name the ANC is going to move forward recommending is Crowdy, C-R-O-W-D-Y, Court, in honor of a gentleman by the name of William Saunders Crowdy. For those of you who don't know, William Saunders Crowdy is the founder of the Church of God and Saints of Christ, which is what the First Tabernacle Bethel, their religion. And in 1906, William Saunders Crowdy purchased the chapel that was originally known as Fletcher's Chapel at 401 New York Avenue. For those who don't know, it is the white cream style building on the corner.